Um, so we just started the recording, and you'll be able to watch this again later. So we updated our learning plans in 2024, and you may know that. What you may not know is what that process involves. So LTC4 was unprecedented in the legal industry because when firms got together and started talking about legal technology competence, they weren't just talking about it. We actually created one product. We collaborated globally and across firms, and that was unprecedented. That's ultimately how we became the global standard. The review of the core competencies works very similarly. So anybody who's licensed can participate in that review process and have some input in what the end result is. It's the structure of our competencies that actually help us maintain the consistency of that product. If you haven't checked it out recently, our website has changed. It's much more easy to navigate. And one of our newest board members, Siobhan Metcalf-Polton of Simmons, had this wonderful idea of creating a members-only portal. This is something that's coming soon. She created a wonderful design. It's going to have a place that anyone licensed can sign in and get all kinds of deliverables. And that we will announce as soon as it's ready. Should just be another couple of months. Later in this presentation, Rob Carwick of Milbank is going to talk about stakeholder buy-in, as Joe had mentioned earlier, and he's going to have some great takeaways for you. So when you leave this presentation, you'll get some things both from the presentation and emailed to you that'll be really helpful. The highlight today is our vendor alliance. So our vendor alliance is, again, an unprecedented step in the industry from LTC4. It was the brainchild of Claire Rebell at Intellic. And essentially what it's done is bring our approved vendors together to have a consistent conversation about LTC4 and about training to LTC4 and certifying LTC4. And she's going to talk about that in detail. And I'm really happy that you're going to get to meet a lot of our, if not all of our vendors in the Vendor Alliance. So let's see, Joe, is there anything else in the chat that we want to share about our questions, about where everybody is? We may have lost Joe. Okay.
So what think, oh, sorry. I think it's good.
Yeah, no, we're fine with the chat. No other,
okay,
no
great.
other questions.
So Claire, I'm going to turn it over to you and you can take it from there.
Great. Thank you, Bonnie. So yeah, if we can jump to the next slide. Thank you, Joe. So for those that don't know me, I'm Claire Rebell, CEO at Intellic, and thank you for being here today. So as LTC4 approved vendors, myself and Intellic and the team, also Dorigen and her team at iTrain Legal, Doug and his team at Savvy, and John, who will be joining us today. He's just had to join another webinar from Harbour. We all support LTC4 and getting a global standard for legal technology proficiency, as Bonnie explained. However, as vendors and LTC4 themselves, we're all doing this independently. So we were marketing and communicating in the way that obviously we felt that was best, but that did cause some confusion, especially as we're not all using the same terminology, and obviously that can happen across the industry as a whole. We were also working with firms to deliver the training and assessments to obtain their certification, overcoming challenges along the way, sharing best practices, and that was from obviously each vendor working with each firm individually. So knowing that we were all doing things slightly differently, but for the same goal and same project, if you will, and causing the confusion along the way without meaning to do so, it gave me the idea of the alliance, and Dorigen, Doug and John all agreed that it would be a great idea. So in Q4 of last year, the alliance was formed, so all very new still. We meet quarterly to exchange ideas. We discuss client projects and feedback from those. We also work to discuss collaborative approaches on working together as vendors, specifically all LTC4 related, of course. I then join the LTC4 board meetings to give feedback on behalf of the other vendors and clients that are obviously working with LTC4, and ensuring that just all parties are in the loop and aligned with all the upcoming plans with LTC4 and the changes that may be coming down the pipeline. So as many have shared, and Bonnie just said, that this type of collaboration and transparency from 4 vendors is really unprecedented in the legal tech world. And we do agree, but there are just so many benefits of us doing so. And we've actually already seen a lot of those come to light, even though we're in the early days. So each of us as 4 approved vendors, we can now sell the core competency directly to the firms. You can still buy them obviously from LTC4, but there is now the option to buy them through the vendor that you want to work with, along with the associated training materials and related assessment solutions. So why did we do this? Just simply because it makes the whole buying process easy to navigate. It's one contract for the firm to work with, the vendor of their choice. So again, just a really simple change that helps streamline the process. Also, rather than hearing from just one vendor and their experience, if you choose to work with a vendor, it means that firms can benefit from all of our shared experiences, and we continue to work on putting best practices together and are looking at various ways of sharing those ideas on various different platforms to all LTC4 clients so that everybody can benefit from that as well. We're also discussing collaborative approaches, which again, very different and unprecedented, if you like, in the vendor world. So for example, you may want training from one vendor, your e-learning courses and assessments, for example, but you may want to take the instructor-led training from another. And as we work together in the alliance, we can navigate the firm's needs more easily and ensure that you as clients get exactly what is required. So those are kind of the first things that we've seen, but there's going to be a lot more that come to light as conversations obviously happen. Can we just jump to the next slide, please, Joe? So as Bonnie mentioned, the website was one of the things that we relaunched back in January. So we worked together to put some ideas on paper and just make some changes to how the pages appeared and obviously the workflow throughout the website. And what we found in discussing this is one of the challenges that we saw firms were having was actually knowing exactly which vendor to contact. So everybody was listed, there were some various strategic partners listed, but it was obviously challenging with 10 core competencies to know which vendor to actually contact. So we all have different approaches, of course. So in one of the alliance meetings, we just popped this simple table together to really showcase exactly which vendor supports which core competency, which methodology that we use, the format of training, whether that's in person, whether it's virtual, e-learning, live in workflow, or video training. So whichever vendor a firm opts to work with, you will see value in doing so. We all just do it slightly differently, but this shows that you can see exactly who does what. As vendors, we have done this obviously numerous times, rolled out these core competency and the associated training. So having the value in that of working with us, we really understand the workflow for each core competency and how the features are covered and mapped to a training plan. The other benefit of working with a vendor means that you miss out on the certification pre-check stage in that whole process, because each vendor already has their training and assessments aligned and approved by LTC4 for the core competencies detailed in the table. So a number of different benefits there, and I'm excited to see what else comes to light in the future. So I'm going to hand over to Dorigen to see if there's anything she wants to add and thoughts on LTC4, who can then pass on to Doug and Rob and to John if he's here too.
Thanks so much, Claire. It's really appreciated. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dorigen Sykes. I'm the CEO of iTrain Legal. iTrain Legal, a UK-based training company delivering globally. And we've been involved in the LTC4 since our inception, really. And just massive thanks to Claire for a start, because her idea was a great one, and it's been implemented really well. as she said, it's unprecedented, and I think it's testament to the industry we're in, I suppose, where we can overcome differences to achieve collaborative work that benefits everybody, really. So we're hoping that you share with us the enthusiasm for this, and it's streamlined a lot of processes that we had feedback were sometimes quite difficult, and we all know that nobody needs obstacles, nobody needs extra administration or different processes to follow. So I think it's made it really simple and straightforward. So yes, thank you to everybody involved, and hopefully we'll see the benefits, and probably already are. So just with regards to iTrain and how we're different from the other vendors, because you'll see from the table we all offer slightly different things. This slide mentions managing documents and emails for iTrain. We're actually working with visual communications and the security awareness competencies as well. So we have those three under our belt, which is I think now updated on the website as well. So you'll see that on the website when you go there to have a look at this. But our difference is really that as with our business, our focus tends to be on instructor-led training, and what we do with LTC4 and what we've done really successfully over the years is work with firms to actually deliver instructor-led training, whether that be virtual or in person, on the core competencies that we're supporting. Over the years, we haven't just done the three that we're certified in at the moment. We've worked with managing documents and emails, and collaborating with others, amongst others, and we are focusing on those three at the moment. But it's a watch this space, because we're probably going to be looking to expand that as well. And we have e-learning that will be certified eventually. But right now, we're sort of the vendor that specialises in the instructor-led collaborations with law firms, and we'd be delighted to talk to anyone who is interested in that side of LTC4 and in that way of delivering. As we know, there's many different ways of implementing LTC4. So we're delighted to be a part of this, and yeah, just echo everything that Claire said, and thanks to everybody involved. And I'm going to pass to it's going to be Doug.
Doug, yeah. I don't think
Doug.
John's here yet. Thank you.
Well spoken, well said, and thank you. And I couldn't agree more when Claire asked if Savvy Training would like to be part of an alliance. I'm like, absolutely. If there's an alliance, I definitely want to be part of it. And for the prospects and the clients, like, this really is an innovative way of us vendors, us business partners working together behind the scenes at the for the benefit of our clients and our end users and the firms. And I'm proud to be here. I sort of see LTC4, we've sort of, Savvy Training has sort of been in and around it for my entire tenure with Savvy Training. And I sort of see LTC4 in almost three different life cycles. The first one was its origination in 2010 or so, and the few years following that. And then there was the life cycle era of COVID and the whole rigmarole that was that. And now I'm just really proud to have Savvy Training be a part of LTC4 in its third sort of life cycle, and its right place, right time, with the competencies and the three that we've got, whatever three they are, and the way that we can, as a vendor, support our clients and, ironically enough, support our competitors in a collaborative way. So I think that this uniqueness is going to be really powerful for us as businesses and for our clients going forward as they work on the core competencies, on the learning plans, on the different tools that you guys use inside of your firms, and how us as vendors can best support you. So we've been, for Savvy Training, we specialize in our Savvy Smart Content Library and the Savvy Academy learning management system, on-site and remote and hybrid training for all sorts of different things. And as it relates to this conversation, especially assessments and certifications. And I think having a certification to be proud of and honor in a way that parallels what lawyers need to do in their CLE world, I think is really powerful and important for staff and support staff and legal professionals, because
Sure.
the job that we do is extremely valuable and needs to be recognized. So very happy to be here, and thanks for having us.
Thanks, Doug.
Is
It
John
doesn't
here?
look as if John's joined us as yet. So I think we may have to move on. Just give him another minute, see if he can make it.
Yeah, I know he had another webinar. I will just
Yeah.
touch on, obviously, I know Harbour's working with a lot of clients. John's been very present, obviously, as Dorothy and Doug have, so it's a shame he couldn't join today and have a say. But yeah, I mean, obviously they do support all of the 10 core competencies. We have been discussing as well from the collaboration side of things with a lot of US clients. They obviously offer the instructor-led training, and I've had similar conversations with Doug, is that, you know, Intellect don't offer instructor-led training. We do have the learning management system, and we have our in-application workflow assessments with the training, but ILT isn't something that we do. So I know it's something, again, with the collaboration side of it, that we've been chatting to Savvy and Harbour about as part of this alliance, so that we can deliver exactly what clients need. So we can provide the training, and then another company can provide the instructor-led training. So yeah, obviously they're very involved as well. So yeah, but any questions, let us know, and we look forward to hearing from your feedback. I'll pass back to you, Joe.
Great, thanks. Yes, do please add anything you'd like to into the chat. Any questions as we go along? Why LTC4 is the question, I guess, that we are always asked when people are talking to us about the possibility of delivering an LTC4 program. As marketing person, I look at the surveys that we see coming out of the big organizations like PwC and the Clock Group. We know that productivity loss is something like 17% when technology is not properly adopted. And I think someone, I can't remember who it was, worked out that that was a bit like having Friday off, which is quite a big change in productivity. We also know that clients are reducing their outside spend. They're increasing the size of their in-house teams. And although their in-house teams also should be looking at competence, it does affect competitive advantage, obviously, if you've got that advantage of saying that you have addressed technology competence. We know that clients are examining bills and that productivity is critical. Fixed fee billing, alternative billing, that's increasing too. And we know also that the highest rates of technology adoption actually improve billing, something like 25%. And written off time is always a problem with every law firm. So all of these things are all coming together and have been for some time, putting the case for improving technology skills and increasing efficiency and increasing productivity. So that's why we still feel very strongly that LTC4 is critical for the industry. So we're going to ask another set of questions, and it's really, what are your challenges as far as getting buy-in is concerned? Again, if you could put your comments in the chat, do you find, A, that there is resistance to technology training generally? Do you have trouble getting people to come along to your sessions or to join the meetings that you set up? Second question might be, is it difficult to map your existing training to the LTC4 learning plans? The idea of the learning plans is that they provide a really easy to follow structure for your training. Do you have trouble explaining benefits to your senior staff? Is there a cost issue? Are you aware of the cost, and is that holding you back? And one of the questions that I think is of great value is, do you have enough resources to deliver the training that you need to deliver? And obviously any other challenges that you have, just pop them in the chat, which would be great. I'm just having a look at the chat here. Yep, Chloe's saying yes, lawyers being very time poor is a problem. They're too busy for training, and they regard certification resistance as testing. Testing being a very unpopular word, as we all know. Monica was saying, yes, they don't attend unless it's practice related and CLE credited. Of course, in the UK, we don't have the same thing as far as CLA is concerned. We have something, we used to have CPD points. That's not really the case now, but we still are, obviously, firms are still required to show that they are continually working to improve skills. Brenda, the biggest challenge is marketing and awareness. I believe more would benefit if they were better aware of the offerings and the benefits. Cost can be an issue. David says, we haven't worked with attorneys yet. They're difficult to get into training as a group. We've had a great response from our support staff. So that's interesting. That may be the approach, the best approach if you're at the beginning of this journey. Brenda says the training team was cut in half post-COVID, and so resources are an issue. It does sound as if, you know, the things that we've questioned here are very much those that are applying to people's issues. Carly says they've made compulsory for PAs and made it part of the career framework to help with engagement. We also use it as refresher training rather than an assessment, which seems to help with engagement. That's a good comment too. Great, thank you very much for that. I'm going to hand over to Rob now, Rob Carwick.
Thank you very much. In addition to everything we were just looking at on why LTC4, I wanted to just take a minute to distinguish kind of getting buy-in for LTC4 generally from getting buy-in for certification. And as you may be able to tell from my response in the chat, part of that is because, you know, my firm is really skeptical of testing and certification, but they absolutely believe in LTC4. They love the idea of having an industry standard set of learning plans. It saves days, if not weeks, worth of work for developing a training outline if you get the LTC4 learning plans. There's a lot of reasons to use LTC4. And so you may first need to get a stakeholder to buy into the LTC4 generally, because that's also, you know, where the dollar spend is. One of the nice things about the new vendor alliance is that you can have the vendor help make the case for you as well. So sometimes it's helpful to have an outside party come in and say, you really want to do this, and here are some of the reasons why, and we'll talk about some of those reasons as we get into the getting buy-in for certification. But you know, consider selling LTC4 itself out of the gate. The other nice thing about the vendor alliance is you can now buy the LTC4 learning plans through the vendors, so it's a single invoice, less likely to draw attention. Probably shouldn't say that while we're recording, but it really does help with getting the learning plans, the training outlines, in some cases assessments. You saw some of the vendors have that. So that can really assist with making the case for why you want to do LTC4. And as a reminder, like, you know, LTC4 is nonprofit. It's an industry association. You know, we don't really charge that much for the learning plans themselves relative to firms' training spend. So, you know, I think you want to kind of lean into that and take advantage of what's been put together and agreed upon by the industry. And there's some flexibility in how they get rolled out. So we recommend starting with the LTC4 programs. It's also really helpful to figure out where you want to start. So again, as indicated on the slide, you want to do some kind of assessment of where your skills gaps are and which of the learning plans would be of most value to you. And again, I'm going to thank the Vendor Alliance, because one of the things they had us do on our website, which was recently updated, was add a lot more detail to what's in the learning plans. So now if you go to the website and look up the learning plans, you will see a better description than I think we ever had before about what each of them will cover, which is great. So, you know, once you have convinced people that, you know, you want to get the learning plan, so you know what the industry standard is, so you have like the outlines ready to go, then you'll be ready to talk about actually getting certification potentially. So if you go to the next slide, you know, the first thing I wanted to mention, and you can do this for just getting LTC4 generally, but it really matters when you're talking about certification, is to get a key stakeholder or champion. It is especially helpful if it's a decision maker or somebody who's sort of considered an influencer at your firm, rainmaker, some of them may be. If you were trying to have lawyers get certification, you might want to have, well, you'll definitely want to have a lawyer get involved. Most firms have a lawyer that's involved in professional development generally and training for lawyers. Figure out who that person is and try to get them to be interested and explain what LTC4 is and why you want to do it. And then you can kind of make the case for certification. And most of the items listed here on this slide are about kind of the firm and your users. And in a minute, we'll get to the next slide and it'll be about kind of the firm and the industry and your place in the industry. But, you know, certification is generally important to lawyers. They like having the bragging rights. It does increase efficiency, productivity. Not listed on this screen as it increases their confidence in their use of the technology and as a result improves the perceived satisfaction with the technologies at the firm. You know, if they're fully trained, if they're certified, they're going to be a lot more confident. And of course, we've talked before about efficiency, productivity, profitability. Those are all benefits that come from getting certified because you know you've assessed at that point that somebody actually knows how to do all of the tasks that are enumerated in the learning plan that they need to do. It also reduces the risks. There's a risk management element where you reduce the risk of malpractice claims or technology mistakes, like the infamous case of somebody sending a document out with metadata in it, or you know the lawyer who used AI to write a brief. Like if you know how to use the technologies at your firm, you're not going to make mistakes like that. And the PI cost there, that's the insurance at the firm. Actually, some firms, some insurance providers will actually give a discount if you've got, you know, LTC4 certification. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons why, you know, you might want to get certification for the firm. And, you know, the number of certifications awarded there, that was just last week. And this week it's already up to 38,058. Like it's an ever-growing number, and you want to be part of that. You want to be part of the growth in the industry. You want to be one of the people who's getting certified, and that can be a really compelling argument for firms. And this is where we get into kind of the firm reason, right? You want to be competitive in the market. About 86% of clients have some form of question about technology use or technology skill in their RFPs and requests for new business. So you want to be able to answer that you're certified. It really does beef up the case for why you should be getting the work. You know, there are the rules of the bar associations and other professional bodies and regulators that say you have to have a minimum skill in technology. You have to have a solid understanding of security skills and security awareness. So again, you know, demonstrating the certification is a great way to prove that it's not just lip service. Anyone can come to training and not pay attention. What certification does is show that they actually absorbed it. And I know I mentioned in my chat that like my firm doesn't believe in testing, but our security training in particular, which is aligned to LTC4, is very interactive. So it's got a lot of questions built in. And if we were asking enough of the questions covered by the LTC4 learning plan, we actually could get certified on that as well. Haven't yet, but we still might do that. And finally, you know, we want you to kind of build a case. So if you go to the LTC4 site, there are some industry articles. You can do research. I bet ChatGPT could find you some really interesting results. I've actually used it for some LTC4 work, and it knows who we are, and it knows kind of how to make the case. We actually, Bonnie mentioned the takeaways. We have recently put together, it's not posted yet, but will be in the next couple of days or weeks, probably days, a sample business case so that you can insert information specific to your firm into a business case that, you know, mentions a lot of the things that we've just been talking about, and lets you actually provide to the decision makers and the stakeholders in your firm, either the business case or, there are also case studies of other firms that have successfully rolled out LTC4. And we're happy to help walk you through that process once you become a member, or I say member, once you actually purchase one of the competencies, you'll be able to actually, I think Bonnie mentioned that Siobhan had put together a document that walks you through kind of how to go through the LTC4 certification process. And again, I mentioned the client RFPs frequently ask about technology skills. And if you go to the next slide, I also wanted to mention that sometimes walking your stakeholder through the process gives them a lot more confidence that this is well thought out, that you have a plan, that you are going to get something out of it at the end. And now that we have the approved vendors in the vendor alliance, it can really help to have a vendor to partner with, because they will really hold your hand throughout the entire process. So strongly encourage people to actually take advantage of the new vendor network and walk through that with your stakeholders involved in the process. So that's our suggestions at this point. Happy to take questions and talk more about it later, but I think Joe has a few more points.
Well, we just wanted to ask a few more questions. So really, what are the main challenges that you have? Are they word skills? Is it document and email filing? Is it CRM? There's always a lot of resistance to that. I know that. Time recording. A lot of people are updating their time recording system to Intap or others. Hybrid working, video conferencing, security, collaboration. There are, we have 10 learning plans. It would be good to know what are the current issues that you have, the current challenges in technology training. So again, just put your thoughts in the chat would be great. Monica's mentioned that they offer learning plans to new hires, but not necessarily mandatory for other members of the firm. We do know that quite a lot of our LTC4 community do use the LTC4 learning plans for their trainees when they come in. I think, Claire, you've raised a hand there.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I was just going to touch on that while people were thinking of their challenges. I think a lot of the comments earlier on were about time, which is why I asked the question about who is using it during their new hire training, because I think it's, like Bonnie said, the security is a win. Same with time recording. People are being onboarded at the firm. It's a really easy way to focus on the first and second year associates. But also, they have to do security training. So they may as well do the training and become accredited as LTC4 certified at the same time. But the other one to consider is, if you're getting a little bit of pushback and, there's not time to go to training, is thinking about using it during rollouts. Because if you're already having, if you're upgrading your technology and already having to train people on how to use that technology, then incorporate those workflows from the learning plans, and then they will become LTC4 certified as well. So I think, just obviously based on a lot of the comments being around time, it's just two ways that we hear a lot and work with clients on to get kind of those two wins during the buy-in is, look, we can do this in new hire training. We're doing it anyway. We're doing an upgrade or a rollout. We can incorporate it into that. So on both kind of business cases there, you get two wins.
Yes, just looking at the chat, Monica's said that they offer 4 plans. Data and reports is the least enrolled and completed. Everyone is afraid of Excel. It's a very interesting one, because Excel is more widely used now than it has ever been. And yet I quite understand that, afraid of Excel, even though it's a really useful tool for them. Brenda says spreadsheet development, word processing, timekeeping are the main things that they're concentrating on. And Rob says email filing to the document management system is very important. Rachel, we're doing time recording as part of our rollout to Intap and upgrading to the 2024 version. Yeah, it's interesting. The the key learning plans that we find are obviously Word, working with legal documents, the filing documents and emails is obviously a top one, and time recording. But increasingly, the use of Excel, I think, is definitely increased, hasn't it, Bonnie? Bonnie, you've got your hand in, raise your hand.
I do. Yes, yes. And I was going to speak to that specifically because, you know, it was overwhelming. We use Excel a lot because we're labor and employment focused. So our attorneys get these, you know, Excel dumps from HR systems that they have to analyze. And, you know, when I first thought about trying to go through that Excel content, I thought it was daunting. But I'll tell you, one of the advantages of using a learning plan is that you don't really have to think through that process. I mean, literally, you can go step by step through any of our learning plans and create the content. And what most people will find, and what we intentionally did in creating those learning plans, is making them flexible enough that you can look at something and say, oh, well, you know, our firm doesn't do that. So we're going to do something different in place of that. And of course, that's part of what the mapping is about, and part of what the advantages of using an approved plan from a vendor. But the point is that you can really go through some of the more complicated training processes much more easily by literally following those learning plans. We find that some people follow the learning plan specifically. Some people sort of take the learning plan and use it as a guideline and still create their own training process. Again, if you're doing it on your own, using the learning plan is the easiest way, and your vendor can walk you through how to get through any of those competencies and align content that they have. I love the Excel that Intellic just sent out. Not to say that Harbor and iTrain and Savvy probably all have wonderful Excel content as well.
So,
Bonnie, I think it's just a touch. Sorry, Joe.
yes.
Just to add, I think that's something Bonnie and I've chatted about before. Is, you know, the workflows, the learning plans really focus it on a workflow. You know, I think if you say to a lawyer and attorney that they haven't got time for training, or, you know, I don't need to learn about the features and functionality in a DMS, but actually if you can give them something that they can relate it to and say, look, if you can, you know, accomplish this and you can charge more, then it actually becomes something that they can really resonate with. So, you know, the whole learning plans being, you know, focused on a workflow, I think is really key.
Absolutely.
So I'm just looking at the chat here. Rachel says they're doing time recording as part of their rollout of INTAP in October. Yeah. And Rachel's also doing a training needs analysis on Excel with one of the practice groups, which is also, you know, potentially a good idea to get some idea of what their actual needs are. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I delivered what is Excel courses to a firm before we actually delivered any training, because a lot of people didn't even know what it did. And so we did a very, very brief, I think over lunchtime kind of overview, and then people could sign up for training once they understood what it could potentially do, because you've only got to show them how powerful a formula can be or a function and how much time it can save to do a data report and so on. It suddenly, you know, they suddenly feel that perhaps that might be a good thing to learn. Monica says it's her shortest learning plan. That's amazing. That's good. So no more questions. Anybody else got anything they would like to ask our esteemed panel? Just looking to see if there's any more hands up.
Joe, I just wanted to take a minute to extend a special thank you to Claire and to Doug and to Georgian and John, just by supporting what's going on here, even though he was unable to attend, because we really appreciate your investment in us and your willingness to get together and help make this easier for for our clients and for yours.
Well, thank you, because LTC4 have been incredibly receptive to all of the things that we've come back from our alliance meetings with our long list. So no, it's been really great. So Monica had a question: as we tend to roll out attorneys, do you offer the same learning plans for staff and attorneys? So no, there is 2 different columns on the learning plans once you receive them, and then there are a different number of required skills for each, and those skills differ based on that requirement for the staff versus the attorney.
Yeah, so 1 or 2 people have asked that question when I've been talking to them, perhaps not quite understanding that there are 2 streams. So that's good to point out. In fact, it's, there are some very obvious changes where support staff don't need to have the same skills, and also attorneys too. So, oh, Brenda, what's a TNA? Training needs analysis. We're great ones for acronyms in the technology world, aren't we? Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. It's been really good to have you with us. I hope that you'll keep in touch, and we'll be having more meetings and posting more information on the website from time to time. So lots of feedback coming through. That's great. And we are recording this, so if there's anyone who in your team that would benefit from watching the recording, please do let us know. Kudos to Claire.
Everyone.
Thank you for being awesome.
No, everybody
You're awesome,
is
Claire.
a part
Thanks,
of it.
everyone.
Everyone is part of it. And everyone really has been just so receptive to the idea, and it's been brilliant. So yeah, thank you to everybody. And I hope thank you to everyone who joined today as well, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.